My name is Rumi Khan, and I'm a junior at New York Shore High School. Just want to talk about myself before I get going. I was born in Virginia, moved to Michigan. Now I live in Delaware, so as you can see, it was quite a change from Virginia and Michigan. But I've grown and adapted. However, I've seen Michigan, I've seen Virginia, and I've seen lots of states in this country, and I can say that I'm extremely proud to be an American Muslim based on that. So that's what I'll be talking about today. So as an American Muslim, I've inherited two great traditions. The tradition of being an American and the tradition of being a Muslim, and also of being American first. And I'm sure most people in this room have had experience with that, considering where we are right now. But I don't really need to go into depth why I'm proud of my American heritage. See, the United States was mainly founded by immigrants, whether it was forced or not. And these strong democratic values that permeated the very founding of this nation gave birth to civil liberties, and it's created the republic that we cherish so ideally today. These personal freedoms, religious tolerance, and scientific innovations have always been part of America's heritage, and they're things I can be proud of. They also complement my other form of inherited heritage, which is my Islamic traditions that I have inherited. So, I'm not going to quote scripture today, but I will talk a little bit about history. So let me just give you a crash course in why. So, there's this myth that perpetuates a lot of history that after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the world went through a horrible dark age where there was no intellectual learning, no scientific growth, no philosophical production. But that is simply not true. While the torch of Western civilization may have been snuffed out by the occasional Attila the Hun, it was picked up and carried by another civilization that appeared slightly used to it, which was Islamic civilization. From the 800s to 1200s saw what was known as the Islamic Golden Age, wherein the Islamic empires and states channeled Indian and Greek texts together and produced knowledge and science that only furthered what the ancients had built upon. For example, as just in the early 800s themselves, the fifth caliph famously built what was known as the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, which was a building where scholars from all over the land, from Mali, from Samarkand, from India, from the Byzantine Empire, could come and read and translate texts, so everyone had access to the knowledge of the ancients. What this gave birth to was an incredible growth of knowledge and science in the Middle Ages. For example, the scientific method, that's pretty important to, everything science is about. That was invented by a man named Ibn Haytham, who lived in Egypt. He was a Muslim, but contributed. He was also a philosopher, and interestingly enough, the term Renaissance man applies to people like Leonardo da Vinci. A synonym of that is what's known as the polymath, which is a person who does a lot of things. They're good at science, good at philosophy, people like Aristotle, people like Ibn Haytham. And another person who's a famous polymath from this era was named Umar Khayyam, who basically designed what we call algebra. Like, ever notice why it's called algebra? Al is the Arabic word for, I believe, the algebra. So, clearly there is a foundation of science and learning. And Umar Khayyam himself identified what was known as a Mu'tazilite, which was a Muslim who believed that logic, reasoning, and rationality was supreme in our interpretation of the world in a religious context. Now, the idea of scientific empiricism ruling over the way we should do things scientifically, is something that should seem familiar, because that's what was very key for what was known as the Enlightenment in Europe. And the same Enlightenment was the one that built this country. At least that's what our founding fathers drew their sources from, like John Locke. So this is why I identify not as American and a Muslim, but as an American Muslim, which has access to both of those traditions to pull from. So Islam has had a very strange history in the United States. It's the third most popular religion if you combine all the forms of Christianity and Judaism into just one little monolith, which is, of course, ridiculous. But, I mean, if you do that, then yes, Islam is the third most popular religion. Only 1% of the country is Muslim. So, for example, 10% of all slaves that were forcibly brought to the United States were Muslim. And they did leave their impact. For example, there was an incident where one Islamic scholar who studied at Timbuktu was captured after a battle and brought here. But he still studied the Quran, and he still contributed to the intellectual development of the United States. What's most fascinating about Islam in the history of the United States is within the context of religious freedom. So when we were designing the Constitution and they were determining whether or not to include, the clause about religious freedom, some people oppose it, saying, "Oh, God forbid a Muslim or a Catholic becomes president. Like that'd be the worst." So, so the founding fathers had to sit down and decide, okay, how far should this religious freedom go? Will we only give it to Protestants, or will we let a Catholic or Muslim be the president? Of course, we've already had both. We have John F. Kennedy was Catholic, and Barack Hussein was Muslim, right? It's a joke, you know. Okay, it fell flat. It happened. Okay, I tried. So, but it should be known that Islam was not entirely foreign to the United States. Like, for example, I believe the Supreme Court has listed as one of the law bringers, along with I believe other presidents and people in Western history. John Adams himself called him a soberer inquirer of the truth. It's quite an interesting quote, considering it was in the 1700s. And perhaps the biggest connection, which is something we should take to heart today, was the United States signed what was known as the Treaty of Tripoli with some Barbary states like Tunis and Algeria in the 1780s. That basically, within the treaty, there was a clause saying that that the United States had no enmity against the laws, religion, and tranquility of Muslims. Literally, since the first few decades of this country, we had made our peace with the Muslims. Say, you know what? If you somehow do it, you can become president, and we have no enmity against you. In fact, the very first country to recognize the United States as being a proper independent country was the Sultanate of Morocco in 1777, which recognized our country, even though we did not share the same majority religion. So, and of course, this is one of the longest treaties that's still been in effect, even to this day. So today, Muslims in America have the unique opportunity that they inherit two great traditions: the Islamic tradition, whether it be knowledge, theology, religion, and the American tradition, one that stresses civil liberties, religious tolerance, democracy, equality for all. These are two great values that can really make you proud. And this goes to show, like Pew polls have found that on average, American Muslims are 6% more satisfied with the United States than Americans themselves, the majority. And Muslim Americans are more likely to believe than the average American that if you work hard, you can succeed in life, which is considered one of the main tenets of the American dream, of course. There are many important Muslims in the political arena, like Muhammad Ali, famous boxer, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Reza Aslan, Fareed Zakaria, both important authors, DJ Khalid, and of course Malcolm X, who's very important for civil rights. So, unlike Europe, where a lot of things happen, the United States has proved far more tolerant to its Muslim Americans, where Muslims rarely report being politically marginalized or significantly, impactfully discriminated against to the point where it ruins their lives. The United States has been relatively good to Muslims. And I like to report, and I do qualify as saying I'm a male, I have personally never received a single case of discrimination against me for being Muslim in my entire 17 years of being in the United States, which I think is pretty impressive for any minority to say. And that's why I can proudly say that I am an American Muslim. So later Obama, I believe this year, said he told American Muslims that you shouldn't be forced to choose between being an American or being a Muslim. And I can say I'm not forced to choose between being an American and a Muslim, because I choose the American Muslim path. Because I'm proud to be an American, and I'm proud to be a Muslim. Thank you.